think everything he's doing here has a purpose. And he talked today about how he's been planning this, since he got started getting head coaching interviews when he was in New Orleans, started thinking about it being a head coach. I think Dan Campbell let him do a lot in Detroit in terms of planning their training camps. So he's been waiting for this moment. He told a really good story about, how he was up at 3:30 this morning, got a text from his wife that said just BAG. And he said, that's what I'm going to be.
Hello and welcome to Gangzone here. My name is Ryan Sampson, the host and producer of the show. That's my guy, Frankie Vittorini from U Stadium. We're going to bring in Kaz here in a sec, but today is the first official day of Jets training camp, and we're here joined by our guy, Brian Costello, our Jets beat writer from the New York Post, to break it all down. And before we get to anything else, guys, as always, Kaz, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Jets football's here. It's hard to believe that, it's an official feel of summer kind of ending now, which is crazy to say because there's still 2 weeks left in July, but summer feels like it's kind of coming to an end once training camp starts, and that's the feeling I'm getting.
No, there's plenty of summer left. Look at how bad Frankie's sweating
Oh
from running through the
boy.
streets of Manhattan. He looks like Patrick Ewing on the foul line over there.
You know what,
So
man? These subways, they have to get this AC right. I'm walking cart to cart trying to figure out what has the best AC. I'm a
don't tell
maniac
Frankie
on there.
summer's over. Don't tell him
Holy
summer's
crap.
over.
didn't wanna go there when you went
My
there,
toxins. At least I'm getting rid of some toxins over here at the minimum. So
Unbelievable. Kaizen will be the one to call that out. Listen, summer, I guess, is not over. We're still going into
No,
it.
we're
But,
still in it.
Kaz, like, we're happy to have you here. How many training camps is this for you now, covering the Jets?
This is my 15th year as the beat writer. So yeah, so I probably did some other training camp practices and stuff before that as a backup, but as the beat writer, this is year 15. So yeah, but I mean, Serby was out here today. Sir, I asked him his first training camp, 1977.
Oh, my God.
damn.
Well,
Yeah, so that's a lot of training camps.
that's a lot of training camps.
Starting
And
quarterback
Samini,
then. You remember?
and Richard Todd
There you go.
was the starting quarterback. Yeah,
Right there.
and Samini's in the room next to me over here, and he was basically here when the franchise was founded, I think.
What was going on with the parking spot? I saw you tweeting about that.
Like so, some of these beat writers don't read their emails. We had to park in a different place than we had parked in years previous, and some of them, there's businesses around here, and we're parking in a business lot, but like we have to park in a specific part of the lot. And the Jets sent us a map, had a big red circle where we were supposed to park, but guys just ignored it, parked where they wanted to park. So they came in and said, "We're going to tow you if you don't move your cars." And everyone had to scramble and move their cars. And day one, that's when you make mistakes. That's when you're working through things. They'll get better. The B writer will get better on day two.
I'm sure they will, and just like Frankie will be less sweaty the next podcast taping we do
I
on
don't
this
know
show as well. Kaz, let's talk about the football action on the field now. Like,
Yeah.
Listen, this is Aaron Glenn's first head coaching job. He's running his first training camp as head coach. We're here with the Jets. I got to do a vibe check here with you on this training camp. I know it's only one day in, but what is the vibe check around this Jets team right now?
Yeah, the vibes are good. I would say we gotta wait a little while, right? No fans today, so it's a quiet. You feel the vibes when the fans are here, but it's they're definitely this is a more under the radar team than they've been in a while. Like the last 2 years have been pretty crazy. 2023 with Hard Knocks and the arrival of Aaron Rodgers. Last year, the return of Aaron Rodgers. Talk of Super Bowl
Mm.
expectations, that kind of thing. That doesn't exist right now. But I think there's a lot of excitement about Aaron Glenn, what he brings, and so I think right now there's a lot of optimism.
Well, so the optimism is definitely something I think we as fans always love to go into when camp starts. You feel fresh, and it's like you kind of have amnesia from the last year and what happened and how the year ended. I do want to ask you, have you noticed any differences between Robert Saleh running his training camps to Aaron Glenn now?
Not really yet, Ryan. I'll be able to answer that question better in like a couple weeks. Like, they're right. This is a ramp up period. They have no pads on, so it's every single football practice with every coach running it looks kind of the same right now. My question is like, will there be more physical practices, right? But that's not going to happen on day one. And like Aaron Glenn's talked about tackling and doing more hitting, and so that could be different than what Robert Saleh did. Robert Saleh didn't really do that. So I'll know more as we get deeper into it in terms of the differences of how camps go. But the first few days are basically the same, I think, almost anywhere you go because they have this now ramp up period where it's a pretty light practice. Today was probably 90 minutes, I would say, and like I said, no pads on, so it's pretty basic.
And I do want to ask too is it seems like the practices are a little bit earlier than when Robert Sala was
Yes.
running there.
Yeah, Sal's practices I think we're at 10 a.m. I want to say, and Aaron Glenn's practicing at 8:30 a.m. So it's earlier. So yeah, well we gotta wake up earlier and get here earlier, but we're also done. We're gonna be done talking to players. We were done today around 11 a.m. talking to players. So it's you can get out of here quick if you're working fast. Like I'm not working that fast. I'm still here, but there are guys that are already gone.
Well, it definitely seems like a full business approach. Like they're trying to get their job done as soon as possible, get their work in. No like messing around. Like it's pure. Let's get into the football. Let's get into practice. Let's have our drills and get into it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's like he's authentic. Like
yeah.
that I just wrote my story. Like he's an authentic like that he used that word and it's a good word. Authentic is like obviously like he bristles at questions and that kind of stuff has gotten attention, but it's him. He's not putting a show on for anyone. You know what I mean? Sometimes you talk to guys, coaches or players or whatever, and you get a sense that there's sort of this like it's sort of an act. When the camera's on, there's nothing like that with Aaron Glenn. So I think everything he's doing here has a purpose. And he talked today about how he's been planning this, since he got started getting head coaching interviews when he was in New Orleans, started thinking about it being a head coach. I think Dan Campbell let him do a lot in Detroit in terms of planning their training camps. So he's been waiting for this moment. He told a really good story about, how he was up at 3:30 this morning, got a text from his wife that said just BAG. And he said, that's what I'm going to be.
Kaz, let me ask you a quick question. I heard Aaron Glenn today mention something that I've never heard Robert Sala mention. Super Bowl. So,
Oh, no, no. They've all mentioned the Super Bowl, right?
but what he mentioned was interesting, though. The first day of training camp, he goes, we have one goal, we have one thing in sight, and that is that Lombardi trophy. We want to win the Super Bowl. Now we're going to take slow and steady steps to get there. We're going to have goals throughout the way. But I thought that was a little bit, I'm not saying Salah never brought up Super Bowl, but I love the fact that Aaron Glenn said it at his first presser. And I think that has to be the standard. And I think
Yeah, I mean, Salah said they were going to win multiple championships. So they do, like, there's a balance. Like, obviously Rex Ryan went overboard with the guaranteeing Super Bowls and things like that. But yeah, I think Eric Glenn's message is basically they know that's the goal and that's out there, but it's not the focus on July 23rd, right? They've got to get better today. They've got to work on this stuff. And it's kind of, he said they'll have a 1 day mentality and each day take each day. So, yeah, I do agree with you. It's good to acknowledge that that's the goal. I think there was some years here where there was reluctance to talk about Super Bowls. I remember 2021 comes to mind, like Salah's first year. Now, Salah said it was introduced, but I don't think no one was predicting him to go to the Super Bowl that year. And there was kind of this idea of like, we just want to get better and grow this year, that kind of thing. So I get what you're saying, but I thought it was a good message.
Well, cause with that being said, one day at a time and taking that 1 day approach, there's obviously some question marks about this roster. Before we get into the deep dive of training camp
Hmm.
battles and whatnot, I do want to get your first take here. We asked you during the offseason multiple times, Sauce and Garrett, are these extensions going to get done? What was your takeaway when you heard the news last week, and what did you make of the Jets, Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji getting the deals done with both of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they'd get deals done. We talked all off season, and I thought training camp was a marker that like they would try to shoot to get it done by training camp, and if not training camp, week one. So I thought I wasn't surprised really. I really thought these were going to get done, especially when Sauce and Garrett were showing up all spring. That told me their agents were telling them like, "Hey, we're looking good. Like you don't have to pull anything and not show up." So I thought they'd get done, and then. I think the deals were good. When I looked at them, I thought they were fair. I thought they accomplished things for the player, but also things for the team. Sauce gets to be the highest paid cornerback, but the deal is not insane to me
Right.
when I looked at it, and like the guaranteed money I thought was fair. Uh, they still have the 2 years on their rookie contracts to play out, so
Yeah.
it's extending even further. The last few years, we'll see if they actually see those 2 years of those contract, or if they rework stuff by then. So I thought it was good, and I think it sends a good message from Muji and Glenn that they want to keep players here. Um, I thought that was important. I think, and like we talked about when I was in studio with you guys, and Frankie was kind of pushing back on Sauce, but my thing is like if you're not going to extend these guys, who are you going to extend? They've been good players. They've been good guys in the locker room. I thought it made sense to do it. Um, I mean, I will push back on this. Like I did see out there, like, oh, they're so much more proactive than the old regime. The old regime, who did you want them to sign? Like they signed Quinnen. They waited a year, but I thought they waited till after year four to sign Quinn. But I thought that was fair. There was no one like these were the guys that was like, okay, this was pretty obvious that you had to do something after year three. And the sort of climate of the NFL has changed where most teams, other than the Cowboys, are trying to sign guys early, right? So I just thought that was a little unfair to the previous regime. I don't think they were dragging their feet on stuff.
Well, Kaz, with that being said, I agree with you, and to an extent, I understand what you're saying about the whole in the three like in the terms of what was the previous regime going to do and who are they going to sign. Like they first off, they drafted these guys, and like this is
Yep.
now after this is going to year 4 for them. Like they were getting rewarded, and like that you could sense that Garrett wanted that new contract, and Sauce felt the same way. I just if it was the right thing to do. I think at the end of the day, like it was the right thing to do. I know we've had those discussions about Sauce and Garrett, and they rewarded their young players, and you're hopefully setting a foundation for these guys to moving forward. With that being said, I do want us to do some breakdowns on these position battles here in this Jets training camp. And Frankie, I want you to start us off here. I know you've got some big ones here that you wanted to ask Kaz about his opinion on these position battles going on in camp, and let's see what you got.
Kaz, wide receiver 2 and 3. What do we got going on here? Because in my eyes, I think Alan Lazard's clearly the favorite to win that wide receiver 2 job. I know people have been talking about Josh Reynolds. What do you think's going to end up being who's going to be your wide receiver 2 and 3?
I think Josh Reynolds is the favorite at wide receiver too.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
okay.
let me preface this because some people might not understand the rules we operate on when we watch practice. There are restrictions on what we can report of what we see,
Okay.
and the depth chart is one of them. Okay, so the funny thing is, it's not so funny for me. It bothers me, but we're not allowed to say who was at wide receiver two today,
Right.
right? But when fans are here on Friday, like if you come sit in the stands, you can tweet out who's from wide
Yeah,
receiver two,
that'll be
right?
out
They can't.
immediately.
It'll
Immediately.
be out immediately.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I do think some fans are probably going like, well, why aren't they tweeting who's at starting center or who's at starting wide receiver? We're not allowed to, and we sign a waiver. They can revoke our credentials if we report stuff. That being said, so everything I say is based off of stuff I'm seeing, but I'm not reporting who's at wide receiver two. Get it?
No, we get it, but
So
it's what you
Gotcha.
I
think
think,
will be wide receiver 2, right? I mean,
and it's
that's
also off of what I'm seeing,
right.
Ryan.
Okay.
But I'm not telling you who's
No,
at wide receiver two today.
I got you.
But if I was a betting man, I would think Josh Reynolds probably has the inside track at
Wow.
wide receiver two.
Okay.
So that's where I go. Receiver three is a little
Yeah.
trickier. I'd probably go Gibson right now,
Wow.
but I'm not sure. I'm not that one. I don't feel like who do you have there, Frankie? Who
Well,
are
I
you
had
thinking
either
there?
Lazard or Reynolds. Whomever there is in 2 would be
Yeah.
3.
So the problem with Lazard and Reynolds to me are kind of duplicates of like skill
Yeah.
sets. They're both kind of big possession receivers. They're gonna get open. They're gonna move the chains, that kind of thing. I think your wide receiver three, you're thinking about a little jitterbug slot type of guy more, and that's Gibson. So to me, he's the guy at wide receiver three. Now that's like what I'm picturing, like lining up.
Right.
If you're doing a three wide receiver set, you're not going to want two guys who have the same skill set out there. Yes, like Lazard is probably a safer bet maybe to make the roster than like Gibson. Like he might be ahead of him in terms of like skill set, but I think Reynolds and Lazard kind of duplicate each other.
Well, I think also that third spot on the if you're going to open a 3 wide receiver set, you do wonder about a guy like Tyler Johnson they got this offseason. There's
Yeah,
Malachi
he's there.
Corley returning this year, and the rookie Arian Smith. You wonder if any of those three guys can make some damage here during training camp.
Yeah, I think Tyler Johnson is another guy who's probably more on on the outside. Corley as a Corley's going to be digging himself out of a hole for a little while here. We'll see if he can do it, but he didn't practice for most of the spring. I don't know what the injury was, but he was injured, so he practiced today, but he's running pretty. He's not running very high with the starters or anything like that. He's got I think he's got a ways to go to dig himself out of a hole, and he had a drop today on a pass from Brady Cook. Um,
It
so
happens,
again,
guys.
It's
that's a
disappointing though to
verbal.
hear though of a guy that
But
that.
the important part of that sentence, guys, is Brady Cook.
Mm-hmm.
You had a drop from Brady Cook, right? So do your deduction skills. That's who he's playing with.
I know.
So yeah, so and then Arian Smith, I think, he's a rookie. He's also more to me an outside speed receiver element right now. Maybe some trick plays to him, that kind of thing. But I don't see him having a major role right away. So I'd give Gibson the inside track. I mean, look, Gibson was basically that in that role last year to start the season.
Yeah, and he's going to be part of that punt return game too. You'd imagine as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how that shakes out. Punt return and kick return are hard things to predict until the preseason games start, right? Because there's no they're catching punts here, but there's no live punt team during training camp. So we'll get a better feel for those once the preseason games start.
Real quick before we get to the next position battle, Kaz, if this doesn't turn out to be great here during training camp, and let's say during joint practices, the passing offense is just not getting anything besides Garrett Wilson in terms of production, could you see Muji and Glenn deciding to bring in an outside receiver into this room?
Yeah, but I just don't think they're going the veteran route that we've talked about for 4 months at
Mm.
this point because they haven't done it. So could they on cut down weekend be going kind of like this guy? I liked him when he was in the draft and like he's loose. Let's bring him in and see if we can develop him for the first, over the first 4 weeks of the season and see if we can get him up to speed to play. So that's not Keenan Allen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. I think you would have done it already if you felt that way. Like they'd have to be really, I guess if it goes really poorly, maybe they do that. But to me, I think it's more likely they go the younger guy that gets cut. And look at this roster. I mean, there's not many older guys on this roster. So it would be breaking character of what they've done to now go out and sign the 30-year-old wide receiver to come in here, whatever those guys are.
Second youngest roster guys in the NFL.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Kaz, next positional battle. This one I think is actually a battle because Aaron Glenn today, Kaz, you heard him. He said every position's up for a competition.
He said
There's
that
a
to
battle.
me. He said that to me.
Oh, that was your
That
question.
me.
All right, nice. That was a good
Yeah,
question.
and my follow up and my follow up and my follow up that he didn't like. So, yeah.
No, that was a good question. Actually, that was probably one of the better questions I heard. Not because it came from you, Kaz. But
Thank you.
Kaz, center position.
Yeah,
What do we got going on there?
yeah. I think Tippmann is the guy. I don't really know why this has become a thing. Like, obviously Josh Myers is an accomplished player, so maybe they wanted to tell him like, you're going to compete for the job when they signed him. I mean, he signed a 1 year, $3.5 million deal, so that's not a starter contract. He had to know he was fighting an uphill battle. But Tippin to me is an ascending player. He's getting better. Like I don't know. Benching him going into his third season doesn't make much sense to me. So I think this is kind of like a competition. There's some reason that they feel like they need to do it. Maybe it's to make Myers feel good, or maybe they feel like they need to push Tippmann. Maybe they didn't
Mm.
think he played as well last year. But to me, Tippmann's going to be the guy at the end of this. When we talked to Tippmann today too, he was interesting. He admitted like he didn't. he was surprised when they signed Josh Myers, and Aaron Glenn called him right away and kind of explained it to him, and he said he gets it, and he's talking, they like each other now, and they've been, he's enjoyed playing with Josh, and but Tippmann said, I'm in an open competition. He said it. He volunteered that. So I think in Tippmann's eyes, they're fighting for the job. So we'll see too, as camp goes on, how the reps are split, and if they're split, or if Tippmann's getting most of the first team reps or all the first team reps. I don't think you want to mess too much with offensive line.
No.
Obviously, the Jets in recent years have had a lot of issues where the offensive line hasn't gotten to play together in the preseason, and I should say training camp. Nobody plays in the preseason anymore, but training camp, and it's affected them, right? Whether it was injuries or Dwayne Brown that when he couldn't practice, and back when he couldn't practice, it seems like every year there's an issue. So I think they want to kind of have that starting five set as much as they can and hope they stay healthy through training camp.
Yeah, it's certainly it caught all of our eyes when it happened. The signing happened with Myers this offseason. Like you said, Tippmann he's an ascending player. He's really good in the PFF run game. I think pass blocking, he had some issues. He gave a lot of pressures from the interior, but I feel like, like you said, it's the younger guy. Go with him. You drafted him. They didn't draft him high, but he was drafted high. So
he does have to get better, though, Ryan.
I agree.
Let's
I
just
agree.
And Brian,
but I agree with Kaz too. It's got to be the continuity, though. You guys stick with whoever you're going to stick with, and don't mess with that chemistry. You want it to be because the center's got to be communicating to all the rest of the line as well.
For sure.
I'm not ready to say though, I know what he is yet.
Right?
Yeah,
no, yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe after next year, after this year, you're like, okay, he's not getting better. All right, let's move on. And also, the upside is so much greater with him than Josh Myers. Josh Myers is not going to be the answer at center for this team for the next 5 years. Joe Tippmann might be. I don't, I wouldn't say he is right now today, but I wouldn't say he's not either. So I just want to see more of Tippmann. And like we've talked about, is this year like kind of an evaluation year for these guys? And in Tippmann's case, I think it is.
Well, in that case, let's go over to the defensive side. We want to ask you about the DB position. We know that Sauce is our CB1. They locked him up, obviously, with the extension. They signed Brandon Stevens in the offseason. They drafted Ozzie Thomas in the third round of the draft this year.
Yeah.
They got Quantez Stiggers as well, Isaiah Oliver returning. How do you see the rest of this depth chart playing out for the DB position?
Yeah, I mean, look, Stevens is the guy. He had a nice play today. They came off the edge and tipped the Fields pass. Um, I think Stiggers and Thomas provide depth right now behind them. Oliver's more of a safety and a nickel to me than an outside. I think he can be an outside corner, but we talked to him today too. I think he's more safety right now and nickel. I think one thing probably that doesn't get talked about very much and will be an important factor for this defense is Michael Carter. Can he come back and play well this year? Obviously, last year he had an ankle injury in training camp, and he comes back from that, and he hurt his back during warm-ups in London. And he had a herniated disc, which if anyone ever had back problems, that's a really tough thing to deal with in life, never mind play football with. So he really wasn't, he barely played last year, and then he wasn't himself when he was playing. And this was a guy who played well enough the year before that the Jets gave him the contract entering last season. So I think if Carter can return and play at a high level, that's a big boost to this defense and maybe something we haven't talked about a ton. So that's been Stevens to me is the big question mark, Brian. Like they gave him a good chunk of money. They gave him $12 million a year. No one else was giving them that, from what I understand. So I think their evaluation better be right there because he's going to get tested too. Whatever you think of Sauce, people are gonna throw Stevens away before Sauce. So, I think he's a big X factor in this defense.
Kaz, really quick, with Brandon Stevens, I picked up something from Sauce today, which was very interesting. Sauce said, I'm all over the place defensively. They're putting me in the nickel, putting me on the outside. They're blitzing me a bit. Wilkes is doing that, obviously. That's Wilkes' style. He wants to be unpredictable with his D-backs. He wants to be unpredictable sometimes with his backers. I think this roster with Stevens allows them to do that a little bit more because Stevens, is he a corner? Some people say yes. Some people think he's a better safety. I think that bodes well with what we're trying to do here in his positional flexibility. Now, with that being said, you want a guy that is great at one thing or very good at one thing, but Stevens, I think, was a Wilkes pickup. I mean, do you think what do you think about that? Or did they just look at him on a talent spectrum?
Glenn was the one talking him up in March. I want to say at the owners' meetings when we talked, like he was talking him up, like he liked his size. He was really enthused about that he had these two big cornerbacks on the outside. And I've asked people around the league, and they're like he's a corner, like he's not a safety, like he's more of a corner because of his size and stuff.
Mm,
They felt like he's better suited. Yeah, Sauce said that yesterday. I mean. Sauce has said that in the past about
Yeah, he
traveling.
has.
He said he was going to have it last year. It didn't. They occasionally they did it like in the red zone, or if a team had a big tight end, they might put Sauce on them. But I need to see it in the season. I think, yeah, they experiment with stuff in the spring, and I think they do it just so they don't get bored. Guys don't get bored, but I want to see it. I do think the blitzing aspect is definitely going to happen. I think there'll be much more aggressive blitzing. I think you'll see some cornerback blitzes, nickel blitzes, that kind of stuff. Maybe we haven't seen here since. I guess Greg did a little bit of that, but I was gonna say Bowles. Even I remember more so of being more blitz heavy from
yep.
the DBs.
Well, cause we also want to go on the other side. Oh, not the other side, but the also on the back end, the safety spot.
Yeah,
What can you make of Malachi Moore, Tony Adams, the starting strong safety job? How does that play out? We know that they signed. I can't think of his name right now from the Jaguars.
Andre Cisco.
Andre Cisco. Sorry, thank you guys.
Yeah.
They signed Cisco in the offseason as one of their safety spots. But how does this play out with the strong safety spot?
Yeah, I think Cisco and Adams are the safeties right now. Could Malachi Moore cut into that? Maybe, but he was a fourth round pick. Remember right?
I
Right, fourth round.
believe so.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was fourth round. Yeah. So
Fifth round, fourth round was Arian, right? Arian Smith.
okay. So
Yeah, fifth round.
it's I have my roster here. Um,
No, Malachi Moore is a
so
fourth round pick. Kaz was right.
fourth round
Yep.
pick. Yeah, fourth round pick.
130th overall.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Kaz is always
you're a
right. I
fourth
don't know
you're a
why I
fourth
said
round
him.
pick for you're a fourth round pick for a reason, right? That doesn't mean you can't. There's not exceptions to that rule, but like a lot of times there's something missing from your game that makes you a fourth round pick. And can he become a great player? Absolutely. Like, look, like Jamie and Sherwood has become a starter on this team, and he was a fifth round pick. So Michael Carter, like, it can be done. But I just think you start off behind. So I think Tony Adams kind of has the lead right now, and we'll see if Moore can cut into that. I haven't seen enough yet to know that. Like we gotta kind of get deeper into the weeds to see do they roll him out with the first team at all? Does he get some chances? How does he do in the preseason? The preseason for a guy like that is just huge, right? He'll be playing in the preseason games, and can he do something? Can he turn some heads? We'll see. But right now, I think it's Adams, and some of these positions, Ryan. I think when I look at the defense, if I had to like name a biggest issue, I think, and this is probably for most teams in the NFL, but depth. Like there's just not a lot of depth, right? So like they get an injury at edge rusher, they get an injury at
It's true.
linebacker, they get an injury at safety.
Defensive
Like
tackle.
Well, hang on,
defensive
guys.
tackle,
See, you're getting ahead of me, Kaz. But yes, I agree
okay.
with you. The depth part, it's definitely something for us to pay attention to because this goes into the next part here about the defensive line rotation. You know that Jermaine Johnson's not going to be full go to start camp. They're going to slow play him here, but you got him coming back from the Achilles injury. You have the other former first round pick in Will McDonald who had a breakout year last year. You could say. We know Quinn Williams is there in the middle. How does the rest of this defensive line rotation play out?
Yeah, I don't know. We gotta see. I mean, we gotta see how it goes. Because look, it's Michael Clemens is the guy right now.
Oh
If Jermaine
God,
Johnson's out, and
You
Aaron
better
Glenn was
like
asked
it.
about him today and was praising him today, and he said he has to get better at some things, but he was praising him. So it's not like I know there was some I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if fantasy is the right word, but people were kind of saying, "Oh, maybe he'll get cut." Like, no, there's no shot he's getting cut. Like this, he's the number three defensive end, at the moment. And I don't know if you can really make a case otherwise for anybody else. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that shakes out. The tackle next to it, I mean, I think I would put Cowart as the favorite right now to start next to Quinnen. But again, we got to see some stuff. There's a long way to go here in training camp, and guys can surprise. I don't think all of those veterans are going to make the team that they signed, but we'll see how it shakes out here over the next few weeks.
All
Well,
right.
go ahead, Frankie.
My favorite position in football, Kaz.
Well, hang on. You going to tight end?
Long
'Cause
snapper.
it's long snapper.
It's long snapper. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. I did want to follow up there about the defensive line that you brought up, Cowart. Is there any chance Leonard Taylor could take a step this year? I know that they liked him a little bit last year. Well, again, different regime, different people. But he was once thought of as a promise. Not, I wouldn't say going to be like an all-star or anything like that. But this is a guy had some talent. You wonder if they can unlock more from him. And also Derek Nandi, is that how you say his name? Nandi.
Yeah.
Him too
Yeah.
as well.
Just need to see it, Ryan, right?
Okay.
I'm going off of what I kind of saw in the spring.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice those guys very much. I noticed Coward a lot more, and so that's why I give him the edge. But look, this is we're in like probably the top of the second inning right now in
Mm-hmm.
terms of going leading. Like if cut down day is the end of this game, we're like in the top of the second. I'd say the spring is like the first inning, and now we're in the second inning, and then the preseason games take it to a different level. So there's plenty of time to go. We need to see a lot more from these guys, but just haven't seen a whole lot yet. But also it's a position that it's hard to really jump out until the pads come on.
The position I was gonna ask. Now, I mean, I should have been a long snapper. I feel like I would have been a good one, but things didn't turn out that way. Kaz, tight end. Tight end.
Yes,
It's my favorite position in football. I love the position, and I think we have some versatility there. And we have two players that, to me, are the exact opposite. I, as a tight end, too. I look at Jeremy Ruckert as big run-blocking tight end, doesn't really move well in space, and doesn't have the greatest hands. And Stone Smart's sort of the opposite. You don't want him to run block a play if you don't have to, but he's smooth in space, lean, used to be a quarterback. Who's got the advantage there? And obviously it's Ruckert, but do you think Stone Smart could make a leap there and be our tight end too, or get some real looks this year, or we're not going to be throwing the ball that much?
I don't think so, Frankie, because I think the guy who's tight end one is going to be more of a receiver, right? So
For sure.
I think you need the blocker as the tight end too. So I think Ruckert has the advantage there. Ruckert, is a solid run blocking tight end. I think he can catch passes. He really, he hasn't been given a ton of chances through his first couple of years here. So to me, Ruckert is the clear tight end too. Does Smart make the team, and does he have a role? Maybe. I think you're probably going to keep three tight ends, and he can have some kind of role. Probably depends on does he play special teams? I think that's a question too, and that's something. The first preseason game, I'm always just jotting down who's on kick return, who's on kickoff, who's on punt return, because those are the guys that have an edge to making the roster for a guy like Stone Smart. So I think does he have a role on any of those teams that would help him? But to me, Rucker right now is the clear tight end two.
So that means no matter what, Mason Taylor is going to be the starter for this Jets offense.
I think so, Ryan.
Okay.
I don't see how anyone could supplant him, right? Like I think he's just too talented. And, I think they went into this draft like doing the post-mortem on the draft and talking to people, and they knew they had to come out with a starting right tackle and a starting tight end. However that shook out.
Well,
Could it, I think if Membu had been gone, might they have drafted Tyler Warren? Maybe, and then they would have looked somewhere else from tackle. I know they had some conversations with Philadelphia about trading for Dallas Goedert. Like if they couldn't get a tight end in the
Yeah.
first or second round, I think they would have pulled the trigger on a trade for Goddard. Um, so they knew they had to walk out of there with a starting tight end and a starting right tackle. So I think those two guys, Membu and Taylor, they have starting jobs.
No, what I was going to say, Kaz, at the end of the day, and this is a concern I have, and then we'll go to the next topic, I just don't know how much volume Mason Taylor and some of these tight ends are actually going to get, and how much volume, even if Malachi Corley makes the roster, let's just say, how much volume he'll get. I do feel like this team is going to be, and it could work. It's going to be primarily get the ball to Garrett Wilson as much as possible, run those option read or read options. I mean, that seems like what it's going to be. Do you have any sense that it could be something different or
More versatile.
yeah?
I think predominantly that's what it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be. Is there got some games where maybe they could adjust and feel like they could take advantage of some different things? Like, yeah, I mean, I think they're in a place. I think early in the season against those tough defenses, that's what it's going to be. We'll see if they can morph, and do some stuff against other teams. But yeah, you look at the personnel, and you don't have to be Bill Walsh to figure out what the best course of action for this team is, and theoretically, they should be a really good running team.
Yes.
They got 3 first-round picks on the offensive line and a second-round pick. They've got, uh, you know, Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, all should be able to have roles on this team running the ball. Justin Fields obviously is a runner, so they should be able to do some things running the ball here, and I think that's clearly the way that things are trending.
Yeah, I mean, you could take what you can from where these other coaches had come from previously. I think about the Detroit Lions that do an amazing job of getting their two running backs and Gibbs and Montgomery the ball early and often, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown is the primary focus in the passing game. And now they
Yeah.
have a guy like Sam Laporta that they developed at tight end, and you saw how much he was able to come on. So you hope, I'm not saying it's going to be Sam Laporta, but you hope that Mason Taylor can
Here,
Yeah.
be a part of this
here's the
offense.
here's the Detroit problem. They don't have Jared Goff.
No, Justin Fields does not have the arm talent that Jared Goff has. No doubt. No
And he
doubt.
doesn't distribute the football like Jared Goff does, which is Jared Goff's MO, but Jared Goff can't run that read option.
Correct.
So you
It's a
kinda-
different style, but it's going to be a lot
Yeah.
of run. I mean, the Lions run the hell out of the football. They really do. I mean,
No, they do.
when they need to. So,
Something
Well,
I was
look, there's a guy like the guy who's kind of not totally flying under the radar, but we're not talking about him a lot. Tanner Engstrand is
Mhm.
he is just a huge, 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 huge piece of this whole thing, right? Like, how good can he be? Because I was just talking to somebody the other day, we were talking about Brian Schottenheimer becoming the Cowboys coach, and I may have told this story before on here, but I saw Shotty at the owners meetings in March. And I said to him, I'm like, man, do I owe you an apology? And he started laughing. And I'm like, I was running you out of town in 2011. Like, I was on the fire shoddy bandwagon. I was younger and a little quicker on the trigger then. And I was like, get him out. And I'm like, Shoddy, it's been one bad offensive coordinator after another since you left, basically. There's been very little success. Chan Gailey had a little success, maybe Mike LaFleur had a little
yeah.
success, but it's been pretty bad. So, like, that position has just been brutal. Like, no one's lasted more than 2 years since Shoddy,
hold
which
on,
is
Kaz.
insane.
Kaz, but you were right back then. I'll say this because remember when Sanchez used to run those four? They used to run those four comeback routes where you'd have every receiver.
Shoddy made they made
But
the
it works
championship
sometimes.
with Mark Sanchez, so you got to give Shoddy his credit. But so I mean, Tanner Engstrand to me is just a huge piece
Yeah.
of this, and we have no idea.
No.
We have no idea what he can be because
No.
he's never been in this
Yep.
position. So, like, is he the next Ben Johnson, or is he the latest Jets offensive coordinator to frustrate the fan base to no end?
Todd
You guys love
Downing,
you guys love your
Nathaniel
offensive
Hackett.
coordinators.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
I mean, it all goes hand in hand with the quarterback, man, and how the quarterback plays. That's always going to be the issue here. And the
Yeah.
Jets just haven't had a quarterback, like legitimately haven't had a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, you could, you want to go that route. I don't want to go that route. One last position battle, Kaz, that I think this might be Frankie's second favorite position on the team, the kicker. Yeah, I know, Kaz.
Well, I love our
nothing
backup
about,
kicker.
I know nothing about kicker right now. We haven't done nothing with kicker right now. So
Okay.
they weren't even kicking that. But, like, look, I do think there's a chance that the kicker and the punter aren't even on the team right now
Wow.
because these guys just don't. They just don't have any track record. I'd be scared going into the season with guys with just zero track record. So I'd be watching around the league about who's kicking well, who's punting well, who might get cut, because it wouldn't shock me if the kicker and the punter aren't currently on the roster.
I don't think this Harrison Mevis kid's gonna make the team.
The
by
thicker
way.
kicker?
No, I don't think so. As much as we want him to make the team,
I want him to make it.
I do a lot. I do also. I'm very
It
much.
just
into
would make
making
such
the
a
team.
great story for New York. The thick kicker.
The kicker and punter, it's all about the preseason games,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Like there's really the preseason games, little bit of training camp, but it's really like you really get a feel in the preseason
Kaz, are they
games.
making a mistake really not investing much into those two positions? I mean,
Yeah,
it killed us last year, right?
If it comes back to bite you, yeah.
I mean,
it will,
Morsted's been a great punter for them the last couple of years. Obviously, they let him go.
Yeah,
Morstead was a
definitely.
little down last year.
Yeah,
I
he had a
think
little
was as
down
good
year
last
for
as he was the
right.
year before, but he was good, and you knew where the floor was with him,
Yeah.
and it was okay. Obviously, the craziness happened with Zerline that they didn't see coming. So, you know, my thing is always just like competition is good in training camp and see what you got. And I thought Zerline showed cracks last year in training camp, and the Jets decided to ignore them. I think that's where they made the mistake with Zerline. They thought he was gonna be fine once the lights came on, and he wasn't. Because they had the kicker, I can't remember the guy's name, who was in camp last year, ended up kicking for Washington. But yeah, I think they just shouldn't wait too long if they figure out these guys aren't good, and just roll guys through Florham Park and have tryouts for the whole month of August at those two positions if they don't like what they're seeing.
Awesome. So another year we get to worry about the kicker and who the hell's kicking field goals for this Jets team. Kaz, let's move over to the next part of the show. I think this is always a fun one to pick out here for you. We would love for you to give us one player on offense and one player on defense, and we'll go both ways. But we're going to start off with what player on offense and defense do you feel like can gain the most in this year's training camp?
I think on offense it's Corley because I think he's starting the furthest back. If you understand, like I said before, he missed a lot of the spring. New coaching staffs don't usually love it when a guy who's not an accomplished player misses time, right? You can't make the
That's true.
club from the top, that whole thing. So I think he's got a ways to go. But so he has, since he has that, he has got ground to pick up. And if he can show the talent that he got him drafted, he can crash this party like we talked about. There after Garrett Wilson, it's basically throw these guys, throw the names in a hat and start picking people
Yeah.
out. Like so, I think if Corley can do some things, he'd be okay. But like I told you before, he's dropped a pass from Brady Cook today. It wasn't a good start. On defense, oh boy, that's a tougher one. Maybe I'd go with Thomas, the rookie. I do think, even though I think Stevens has the job, I think I'm not sure how firm that grip will be all season. So maybe Thomas can show some things during training camp and start to make them think like, oh, hey, maybe we'll go to him at some point this season. Again, rookies, you're starting from behind. Unless you're a top pick, top
Yeah.
or first or second round, you're starting. So I'd probably go with him, and the other one's probably the defensive tackles. How we talked about that too. There's room there to make some hay.
Frankie, who do you got who has the most to gain on offense and defense if you're going to pick one player each?
Well, yeah, I made a list, Kaz, of 10. I'm not going to go through the 10, but 5 on
10?
offense. Yeah, 5 on offense, 5 on defense, like the whole roster.
I just had to go off the top of my head. All right, I'll sit back and listen.
No, you actually named
named
you named Malachi
Corley.
Corley was my player number 1 on there. Tyler Johnson, Stone Smart, Isaiah Davis, and Josh Myers. I think I have the most to gain and also most to lose.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think Isaiah Davis is a tough road because Brees Hall
Yeah,
and Braylon Allen, I feel like are just kind of have established roles. I do think Isaiah Davis's role was on Tanner Engstrand to figure out because
Totally.
when I watched the end of last season again, like when I went back and watched, like he had some really good games at the end of the year. He was
He
playing because
did.
Brees was hurt. Brees was hurt, so he played a lot and he played well. So I think it's on Tanner Engstrand to try to figure out a role for him.
And then defense, nothing crazy there. Outside of Jamin Davis, I think,
That's a good one.
because he's
Yeah.
slotted now as like that third, like,
He's the third linebacker.
yeah.
Give some depth there.
Yep. Isaiah Oliver, Quantez Stiggers, and then 4th round pick Malachi Moore.
That's right.
Yeah. Oliver's an interesting guy. We talked to him today, and he's just like a cool guy because he can play all over the place. Like I
Mm,
gotta think he's a coach's dream, right? He
mm,
can play safety, he can play nickel, he can play outside. He basically did it all last year.
yeah.
Like he's just a valuable chess piece to have. And we were talking to him as he watched Brian Branch film, and he said he studied him and how he was used in Detroit because obviously Branch has a lot of versatility as well.
There's a lot of position battles here up for grabs. It feels like with this Jets roster as we're talking about it, and I think you guys have named a lot of good players here that we should pay attention to see can they make a name for themselves, can they make this roster, can they actually be an impact player for this Jets team. But we would be remiss, guys, if we didn't talk about the quarterback, QB1, Justin Fields. I know Frankie wanted to ask you this, and I'm going to set it up here for a little bit. It feels like since they signed him as a free agent, listen, if the job's yours, you're QB1. But I think you wanted
Yeah.
to ask Kaz here a question here, Frankie.
Cause I really believe this, and I hope they do this. I think there should be a real quarterback battle. I really do. I know it's Fields' job at this point. I understand why they signed him. But if Tyrod outplays Justin Fields in camp, he should be considered in the running to win the job. We need a real quarterback competition here. You said it from day one. I think the first show I had with you, and you were spot on. The biggest mistake they made with Zach Wilson was giving him the job and not having Flacco start that year. I feel like they should just have a natural quarterback competition. I think Fields will probably win it if they do that, but I don't like the language coming out of one FD where they're one JD, excuse me, that they're giving the keys to Justin Fields. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So I thought it was curious when Glenn said that in March, right at the owners' meetings is when he first told us that. And today you were talking about him answering my question about center, and he was, oh, every position is open.
Yeah.
Well, the one position he's basically said is not open is quarterback. And just based on like I don't know this, no one has told me this, but I'm kind of just reading the tea leaves and also some of the reporting around Aaron Rodgers signing with Pittsburgh talked about how the Steelers really wanted Fields. Like they wanted to sign him, but they couldn't. I have a feeling the Jets, the part of the deal of getting Justin Fields here was telling him he was going to be a starter, right?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I don't think Justin Fields enjoyed what happened to him last year in Pittsburgh. Like, obviously he had to kind of rebuild his career after Chicago. So he went in, he had to compete with Russell Wilson. I don't think he loved that. Russell Wilson gets hurt and he plays the first 6 games, wins 4 of them, and then he gets benched. So I think for Justin Fields, he went into the free agency going, I want to I want to know I'm the guy. And I think the Jets told him he was the guy. Again, I don't know that for sure, but I'm just trusting my gut and also sort of some of the stuff I've read about Rodgers with Pittsburgh tells me, why did he pick the Jets over Pittsburgh? Like maybe they blew the money out of the water, maybe they did that, but I also think maybe they told him you're the guy. You're gonna be the starter. Because it was very strange that they just did that right in March. They anointed him, as Coach Parcells would say.
Yeah.
Aaron Glenn likes to quote Coach Parcells. Well, they anointed him, and he really hasn't done anything to deserve that in my eyes.
Well,
So yeah, I think if there was a stronger backup, Frankie, you can make a better argument. I think Tyrod at this point is kind of a nice veteran backup. I
Yeah, that's a
don't
good
think
point.
Tyrod is a starting quarterback, right? I don't think anyone would be looking at Tyrod as a starter. So I think if they had brought in Jameis, right? I think we'd be talking a little bit more as like, should there be a competition here for the job? Because he's viewed as possibly a starter, or was recently,
Or like
but
Russell
Tyrod hasn't
Wilson,
really
they
been a
talked about.
starter. Or yeah, or Russell, well, that would have been interesting. They recreated that, but you know, Tyrod hasn't really been a starter in a long time in the
True.
NFL,
well, I guess
right?
that'd be my follow up. Would it shock you at all to see if Tyrod outperforms Justin Fields a little bit here early on in training
So the
camp?
outperform thing is tough, right? So here's where it's tough for a guy to outperform, in my opinion, when you're the second quarterback. The first quarterback is playing with Garrett Wilson. The first quarterback is playing with Olu Fashanu. The first quarterback is playing with Brees Hall. The second quarterback is playing, and I don't want to degrade anyone, but they're playing with the guys who are not the starters on the
Mm-hmm.
offense. Okay. So you're under more pressure. because the offensive line isn't as good. Wide receivers aren't as open because they're not as good. The running game isn't as good because the running backs and offensive line aren't as good. So it's very, very, very difficult, in my opinion, to win a job as a second quarterback. That's why what Frankie said is like if you have a competition, then this guy gets Monday, this guy gets Tuesday with the starters. This guy gets Wednesday, this guy gets Thursday. This guy gets preseason quarter one, this guy gets preseason quarter two. Like you can set it up where it's a much more balanced playing field. I remember the year when they had Teddy, Sam,
Yep.
and Josh, and they had to actually like kind of put Josh on ice in order to give Teddy and Sam more reps and stuff. It's just this the reps are so limited, and that's the flip side of like doing the competition is like you want Justin Fields to get as many reps as possible with the first team if he's your starter. If you do okay, we're gonna have an open competition, his reps basically get cut with the starters in half for at least as long as the competition goes on. So I'm with you kind of halfway, Frankie. I think it's weird that they did it, but I think now that they did it, they have to ride it out. I don't think Tyrod is like Tyrod's a really good backup. I don't think he's a starting quarterback at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just don't hold on to the ball too long, Justin. Let's make your progressions a
What's
little bit
well,
faster.
30 was already. Yeah, I know.
what's intriguing, God, what's intriguing to me,
Guys, your
That's-
Guys, I
expression
read all
just
these
now.
training camp
You're like,
tweets.
oh, God, I'm already
unfortunately,
over
you know,
this.
I read them
training camp
all.
crap. Like I mean, God, it's first day trip. Give the guy some slack. I think he threw 8 passes today. So
That's a
5 of
game
8,
script.
right? That's good.
It's a normal
5
game
of
script
8.
for us. 8 passes.
Here's
So
what's
7
intriguing.
68%,
Is like
whatever.
they play all these really good defenses to start the season.
Yeah.
So like, what happens if he starts slow? Like that's real, right? Like that's when it get like that's real. Those are results. Like what if the team starts slow? What if Fields starts slow? Are the questions going to come? Should they switch to Tyrod? Are you guys going to be clamoring for Tyrod? How is Aaron Glenn going to handle questions every day about Tyrod? Like that's when things could get interesting.
I guess that all depends on how the rest of the team plays. Like if the defense is playing good, right, Kaz, and the offense is what's like you're saying is
It's
slow.
always all about the quarterback, though, right?
Right. But I'm saying if the defense is playing well and it's like the offense is not performing and they're not giving them chances to stay in games, that's when I feel like those questions will develop. But if the whole team is struggling, just ride it out. I mean, this feels like, again, this is an evaluation year for this entire team. I think they know, like, the young guys they signed already that they want to keep, but now it's a matter of figuring out how do I build the rest of this roster, and Justin Fields is the number one question. Can we develop him into an actual starting quarterback that we can win football games with? I think that's what, at the end of the day, what they're trying to find out.
Yeah, I think it depends when, though, too, Ryan. Like, if that doomsday scenario were to happen, let's say, and Fields just isn't picking up on anything and just struggling and turning the ball over, if you're at week 6 or after the bye week, where we'd be 8 games in, where do you go from there? I don't know. They have it's a tough decision to make.
I think you gotta let it ride with Fields.
I agree with you for the most part, but sometimes things get so bad, Ryan, you almost can't. I'm just saying, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Mr. Negative here, but
you have 8 weeks. Week 9's the bye. I mean, you'd have to be have 1 or 2 wins after that in order to say it's
you're
doomsday
right. There's
scenario.
no point. What are you going to do with Tyrod, really? What value?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get anything from if you're playing him.
But you're going to want good football to be played, though. You're
I hear
going
you.
to want a quarterback. Let's say he's not calling the right protections. That affects the O-line. Garrett doesn't get the ball, yada, yada. But
Yep. All right, Kaz, let's bring this all home. We know you actually got exclusive access to this before it was broke yesterday morning. The Jets built a new locker room for their players. Brian, why don't you hit that video for us? So, Kaz, we got footage here. I know you were there with the photographers. You were getting a firsthand look, the new barbershop, the TVs above the locker room, the new signage, new lights, all of that. It looks awesome. So we got to ask you, man, is this going to help the Jets win more football games?
That's the question, right?
Because you always say winning breeds culture. So maybe this new locker room is going to bring new culture here.
It can't hurt. That's what I was
wow, I'm
saying.
surprised you
There's
even went that far. Wow.
There's no negative. There's no negative to it. I do think it's a nice. Really did a really great job. It's really nice. I was in the sauna. I did not
Ooh.
turn the sauna on. I was in the sauna though. I did go in the barber shop.
Whoa. Did you really?
I did not get my hair. I didn't get
Just took his hat off.
Wait, you got a nice.
I walked
Clean
in. That's
shave
cool
up
though.
there.
The barbershop chairs are from
Yeah,
1951.
those are old school.
Found them. Yeah, they found them like from a place on Long Island. They bought them and then they refurbished them. So the base looks like a Jets helmet, like it's that metallic
That's cool.
green, and then they have the logos on them. So yeah, it's cool. They had a really lot of nice touches to it. The lockers have these ventilation systems that will suck the moisture. So like Ryan, if you had one for Frankie when he walked in before, it would have helped you like suck the moisture off Frankie.
I needed
So
it
like the
so
shoulder
bad.
pads and their like cleats get the moisture and the odor taken out.
We
Like
need that right now
so
for him.
obviously the locker
I'm
room
fine
is
right now.
locker room can be a smelly place, so that it helps there. And like they have like these monitors above their lockers that have their pictures on, and they can put highlights on there if they want. They press a button and it opens up, and the shelf comes down with their shoulder
That's
pads. Like
cool.
it's high tech, yeah. So it's cool. They do like there's a guy Bobby Mastrodi who's he's the vice president of security and runs the facility. He kind of oversaw the whole thing, so he gave me the tour Monday, and they really they did a nice job. It needed an upgrade, right? Like this place was built in 2008, so it's been a while, and we always see like the locker rooms at colleges, Texas and Georgia and stuff. And I think some of these guys come to the NFL and are like, this place sucks compared to college, because the college places are so nice. So, gotta give them credit for doing it.
So to be real for here for a second, we see the reports of the player report cards, and we saw
Yeah.
how low the Jets facility was rated. Do you think someone like Woody Johnson took that into account and said, you know what, we got to update our locker rooms? I'm hearing you guys.
Mm, They've been talking about this for a long time,
Okay.
Ryan. Like this has been in the works for a while. I think they actually decided this in March of 24 to
Mm.
do it. So it's been a while. Um, the hard part for them was finding when they could do it, because like obviously they were in flux after last season with the coach and the GM, so you're not really going to do a big project like this and then have the coach come in and go, oh, I don't like this. So they had to wait then, and so they did it over 5 weeks. So during minicamp, the locker room was closed. They had a temporary locker room set up in the field house for them, which was I toured that too, which was pretty amazing that they were able to build that. And so they started it that week, but they had to demo everything, take everything out, and then put all the new stuff in. So it was, when I was here Monday, like the guys were still working on the sauna, like it was still being finished, like it was down to the last minute. They were working around the clock on it, but so I don't think it was a direct reaction to the report card, but it certainly helps with the report card. Now I think going forward, I have my own feelings about that report card. I don't, the Jets food is unbelievable, and the players were ripping the food here, which is it's just crazy. We had poke bowls today for lunch, so
Ooh.
yeah. So yeah, you'll never hear me complain about the food at the Jets facility. It's unbelievable.
Kaz, naturally, fans are gonna go now towards the field, towards MetLife in and of itself, and say, "Well, Woody Johnson seems to be listening to a bunch of outside things." Although this has been in the
Yeah.
works locker room for a while, people loved what they did at MetLife for the Club World Cup with that grass, not that field turf. Is there any possibility of something like that happening? I tell fans all the time, no. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more complicated than just doing the locker room, right? Because you have the Giants there, you have the concerts there. I think
True.
that's the problem is I think it's such a multi-event place, right? They love to do the concerts. They have high school football there in November, December. Um, from my understanding, is they feel like maintaining the grass will be very difficult in December and January at
Mm.
MetLife, right? Go ahead, make your January jokes, but there are like the games. But yeah, I think they feel like it would be very hard to maintain during those times. I'd actually like to look, guys, at like how many grass fields there are now in the NFL. I don't
Lambeau.
know. Yes, and
Uh,
Lambeau's not a place where there's going to have as many concerts as MetLife, right? It's a small
There's
town.
14 use
14.
use natural
And
grass
like
for
and how
life.
many of those and so like you and like again like this stadium has two teams playing in it, right? He's the only
Yeah.
other one so far that has two teams where there's a game, there's pretty much consistently a game there every week, right? So I think there are some challenges to MetLife Stadium that we do have to acknowledge. But that being said, like there's technology. I'm sure there's somebody out there who'd like to figure out how to grow grass in December at
Yeah, I mean
MetLife Stadium.
Chicago Bears do it, Lambeau Field they do it in Green Bay. Those are the cold places. Pittsburgh Steelers are cold. They play with the grass field. The Cleveland Browns play on the grass field. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's the multi-event thing. I think
That's
that.
exactly.
So
what
also
it
that
is.
yeah, it's a heavy usage stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, right? There like it is it's got a lot of stuff going on there. So I do think there is a challenge to that, but um it's something, hopefully they figure out. I also, they'll contend that the injury rate isn't that's not real. That the NFL feels like the turf is not here, but players feel like it is, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kaz, we appreciate you as always for coming on with us, man. Training camp officially underway. We're looking forward to your coverage throughout. I'm sure we'll be talking to you a bunch more times here throughout preseason and throughout these games and joint practices. And I know there's a lot of stuff coming up, but we appreciate you as always, man, for coming on and breaking this all down with
problem.
us.
Stay cool, Frankie.
As I was gonna say, you were interviewing and talking to players before whom just left practice. It's like interviewing me, or us talking. It's the same thing.
They weren't quite as sweaty.
Oh,
Frankie's working harder on these questions,
I'm
Kaz.
working
for you.
tough,
Yes,
Cos. My
yes.
brain,
Thanks,
The
Kaz.
subway's tough.
Yeah.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Later, Cos.